Coming up on We Talk News this week, while Minnesota is on the verge of becoming the 23rd state to legalize cannabis, the battle to even get that question on the ballot in Florida continues to be difficult. And now, their attorney general says the question is too vague, and she will try to block it. A week after the New Hampshire Senate shuts down the latest attempt to open an adult use market in the Granite State, their governor, John Sununu, says he's supporting state-run stores. And why getting baked and bagged is not a good thing for an unlicensed edible maker in New York City. All that and a story about a billionaire owner of a rolling papers company who admits he doesn't smoke it and couldn't roll a joint if his life depended on it. All that plus coast-to-coast coverage on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Weed Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of the battle to end cannabis prohibition in the world. I'm Alaina Pinto. All eyes are on Minnesota now because that state is really just one signature away from legalizing adult use in the state. The Minnesota House and Senate have both passed bills to pave the way for adult use to begin on July 1st of this year. But Governor Tim Walz thinks it will take longer to set up the regulatory structure and sales rules. At least he's not saying he will veto it. So right now, Minnesota is poised to become the 23rd state to legalize cannabis. One of the first states, though, in the Midwest to jump on the cannabis weed wagon is Michigan. They continue to have their own issues with regulations and human behavior. Here's NORML's executive director for Michigan, our own Rick Thompson, with the Michigan Cannabis Report.
Hello again. This is the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News. Let's begin. A new update has come to light in the Green Peak SkyMint scandal. As a reminder, SkyMint was placed in receivership in March of this year. Just this week, Innovative Industrial Properties, a company which owns many of the existing SkyMint cultivation and retail facilities, announced they had repossessed several of those properties. During a quarterly conference call with investors, Innovative revealed that they had captured 2 retail locations, which were described as small and worth about $3 million. They also took control of the large Summit building as well. Now, the Summit building is a huge 146,000 square foot facility in Delta Township near Lansing. SkyMint was granted a license to operate adult use cannabis cultivation and processing facilities on that site in 2021, using the, at one time, popular financing method of a sale leaseback. In that scheme, SkyMint agreed to buy the property, then immediately sold it to Innovative Properties, who immediately leased the building and fixtures back to SkyMint. Now, in that scenario, SkyMint owns the license to operate and the cannabis, but Innovative owns everything else. And that means when SkyMint can't pay their bills, the property owner, Innovative, can eject them from the building. Innovative's quarterly update said they're currently shopping the Summit property around to other buyers. According to the report, and I quote, "The receiver is paying rent on all other remaining properties leased to Green Peak, including the Harvest Park cultivation and processing facility and 4 other retail locations." Former Green Peak leader Jeff Radway was booted from the company just weeks ago. For the first time ever, Ascend Wellness has reported a profit, according to their press release and a story in Benzinga. Ascend recently expanded operations in Grand Rapids and is a well-known multi-state operator. They're active in 7 states and have more than 30 cannabis retail operations. Their first quarter 2023 gross sales numbers are up to $141 million, a new record for the company. Net sales, $114 million, and offsets their $18.5 million loss. Although the revenue figure is an increase of only 2% over last quarter, their net loss in quarter 1 of 2022 was more than $28 million. Ascend is touting this as a turnaround moment for their never-been-profitable company. In addition to opening new retail operations in Illinois, Massachusetts, and Michigan, The company also made their first harvest and sales in the Pennsylvania market. Well, a new article by New Cannabis Ventures points out a remarkable sales trend in our Michigan cannabis categories. As a reminder, March's sales were up 16% in the adult use market in March. Total sales in that month were just shy of $250 million, a new record, which includes the totals for our state's failing medical marijuana market. One category of cannabis product overachieved during a month of great achievement. Pre-roll sales expanded dramatically, up 130% in just a single month. Michigan's first quarter sales are up 46.2% over first quarter 2022. Now, April sales are always boosted by the 420 holiday. Despite all this positivity in the sales column, many Michigan cannabis entities are struggling to survive. That point was driven home by an email from the law offices of Barton Morris, who's a well-respected cannabis business attorney, which carries the subject line of, "Prevent the collapse of your business today." The law firm has authored a guidebook to maintaining the health of your cannabis business, which is focused on partnerships and intercorporate communications. The email includes this description. Partnership mismanagement can take many forms, from poor communication to unequal distribution of workload to disagreements over financial management. When these issues are not addressed, they can fester and lead to disputes that can damage the partnership and the business as a whole. Now, this statement underscores the dangers of C-suite squabbles, which can be more destructive to corporate survival than even the low price of cannabis. The guidebook is free for download, and you can reach out to the law offices of Barton Morris for a copy of the guidebook. And that's it for the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News.
The state of Florida has a vibrant and successful medical marijuana program, but the movement to get adult use on the next ballot might have hit another snag. The state attorney general, Ashley Moody, submitted the citizen-led petition to legalize cannabis use by adults to that state Supreme Court. However, she wants them to block the current question and create a simpler one. The AG wants a simpler one subject question to be put before voters, and that state's Republican Party is trying to block any kind of cannabis legalization question on the ballot, despite over 700,000 signatures supporting the initiative of Smart and Safe Florida. The latest signature totals after April are 786,000, with 891,000 needed by July 1st to move forward. Of course, if the state attorney general gets her wish, a completely new question will have to be created and a new signing initiative started. All this despite over 70% approval for legalization in that state. No such issues anymore in the state of New Jersey, however, where they started their adult use sales last year. So now it's a whole different set of questions and initiatives, like welcoming out of state dispensary owners. That includes Massachusetts-based Nova Farms. Jill Goldsberry has the latest from the Garden State.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jill Goldsberry here with We Talk News New Jersey, and I'm here with the New Jersey Report. Here's what's happening. The New Jersey Cannabis Insider Awards 2023 takes place on June 8th and will recognize excellence and achievement in the New Jersey cannabis industry. The award show will return to the Carteret Performing Arts Center in Carteret, New Jersey, with a new format that includes more awards. So space is limited for this exclusive event, and tickets are actually on sale now because voting has ended. So get those tickets now. It's a dress to impress event that will include a cocktail hour, the award show, open bar, networking, late night bites, drinks, and entertainment. All the things people in the cannabis industry love, right? So winners in each category will actually be invited to a special rooftop event and after party. And we know that's going to be fun. Some of the awards to look out for are excellence in cannabis law applications, excellence in cannabis law municipal lawyers, excellence in commercial building operations, excellence in dispensary operations, excellence in consulting, and let's see, minority-owned business of the year, woman-owned business of the year. You get the point. There's a lot of awards. So get your tickets. is happening on June 8th. In other news, in Woodbury, New Jersey, Nova Farms, which is the Northeast's largest privately owned vertically integrated cannabis operator, is proud to announce that they're opening a flagship operation here in New Jersey. It's the first retail dispensary in Woodbury, New Jersey, opening on actually today on the 19th. And Nova is not the first, but it's the first one in New Jersey that is a non-conversion, exclusively recreational adult use dispensary. Try saying that 5 times. And according to Nova's spokesperson, New Jersey is a great example of this, and they're excited to show the New Jersey market what Nova Farms is all about. And currently, Nova has 4 other dispensaries, 3 in Massachusetts, 1 in Maine, and with 2 outdoor cultivations in Massachusetts and Maine, and 1 indoor grow facility in Rhode Island. So they also manufacture and process cannabis products in those states, and will do so in New Jersey. So look out for them. They are going to be located at 642 Montua Pike in Woodbury, New Jersey, and they will operate longer hours as well, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And from what I understand, Nova is an experienced retail operator that will bring its expertise to the New Jersey market. So we look out for that. Another opening coming up soon is Elevated by the Cannabis Lady Dispensary. Elevated will feature craft cannabis from local cultivators like the brand Miss Grass, who's also from New Jersey, luxury products from My Base Bud and Her Highness NYC, things like that. So if you're looking for more information on Elevated by the Cannabis Lady, they will actually be opening, soft opening in July, it looks like, this summer. Don't quote me on the date, but I was told that the soft opening is coming up in July. They're going to be located at 9 Highland Place, Maplewood, New Jersey. And feel free to go to the cannabislady.com for more information. Thanks for watching. I'm Jill Goldsberry for We Talk News New Jersey.
The state of New Hampshire continues to try and rid themselves of the distinction of being the only New England state to not have an adult use market. The House has passed a bill, but last week the Senate there voted that down. In the meantime, their governor, Chris Sununu, announced he would sign the bill for state-run cannabis stores. This back-and-forth policy battle will continue for a while. One state in New England that is starting to get some attention for the way they have opened their own cannabis market is the great state of Maine. We have a new correspondent from that state, Dr. Stephen Ivanovsky. And here's what is happening in vacation land.
I'm Stephen Ivanovsky, also known as Dr. Be Well, with the Maine Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. The news in Maine this week is an article that's out there is how did Maine get legal weed right? While California's and others struggled. And I would argue that Maine has gotten cannabis right, as they're doing very well compared to other states in decreasing the illicit market and getting sales, increased in both the medical and the adult use market. I think that that's definitely a great thing. However, I think that some of the article did attribute that to some of the stuff, having to do with the tracking system in the state. I think that is helpful for consumers potentially. But I think it really had to do with the organic grown caregiver program, that started here in about 2010 and has had, many people who have gone through that program and have still successfully stewarded that program. I think that's what's really driving the success for the state. So thanks so much for hearing me out today. I'm Steve Ivanovsky, Dr. Be Well. You can check out the podcast if you guys want to hear more about some Maine cannabis news. Thank you for today for We Talk News. Giddy up.
Out west in Oregon, changes and tougher regulations are now being put in place for all dispensary operators. One is a requirement to pay your taxes. As Marianne Kersagi tells us, that state's Department of Revenue says 9% of licensed dispensaries are in the rears.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. This week, Oregon's Governor Kotek announced that cannabis retailers will be required to prove that they've paid their state taxes before receiving or renewing their license. This is welcome news for the industry as companies struggle for profitability. Reducing the number of retailers will likely improve the financial stability of those who are able to pay their bills and remain operational. The Department of Revenue reports that approximately 9% of cannabis retailers haven't fully paid their taxes. Also, the recent audit of the OLCC by the Oregon Secretary of State's office highlighted several opportunities for improvement. An overall theme of the audit is that the cannabis regulations were designed in a time when federal intervention was still a possibility and the Cole Memorandum was in effect. As federal authorities have not intervened in state licensed businesses, the landscape has changed. The OLCC needs to adapt to the times and work on improving the industry. We will see if this becomes a reality. That'll do it for the Oregon Report this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
Akerna was one of the first cannabis companies to go public and be listed on the NASDAQ. With the current market correction happening in the industry, more and more companies are merging. Akerna wants to merge with a Bitcoin company called Griffin Mining. One investor in Akerna is trying to block that merger, claiming that the company misled their investors about that merger. Albert McCaffrey and his representatives filed suit in federal court in Colorado this week with the hope they can block the merger from moving forward. In the meantime, that stock and many like it in the cannabis space continues to go up and down like a seesaw. With more insight on the cannabis stocks, here's Doug Miller.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. Cannabis software firm Akerna Corp is facing a federal lawsuit brought on by one of their shareholders aiming to halt the company's planned merger with Gryphon Digital Mining Inc. Now let's look at that stock chart. The ticker is KERN, and the chart looks like it's curling down, so it does not look like this lawsuit is a good thing for the company at the moment. I'm going to keep my eye on it and see how it plays out. And Curaleaf reported their first quarter results. They did have a revenue of $336.5 million and $115.8 million in cash. But remember, they have $593.8 million in outstanding debt. So make sure you're really looking at the important things when you're looking at the balance sheet. I will say the new CEO, Matt Darren, he's been doing a really good job trying to salvage this company. It was run really bad. Now let's look at the stock. It's trading around $2.88 and it's curling up. It looks like it could touch around that $4 area, but lock in those profits because it could get really ugly for this MSO and many others. And that's this week's cannabis stock report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
This is the week that the NCIA entertains their members in Washington, D.C. with an event called Lobby Days. Lobbying is an important tool to share knowledge with our elected officials in our nation's capital. And this is the 11th year that the NCIA has held Lobby Days. And here's a few reasons why the experience of lobbying for a cause or an industry is so important in our republic.
It is my first time lobbying with NCIA, and I'm here because I want to add to the discussion.
So it's my first time here. I'm very excited. There needs to be folks that come from backgrounds like mine here walking the halls of Congress and sharing our experiences.
It went really well. They were very receptive to us. They definitely had questions about the banking and how all that works in our different states.
We're not treated like any other regular business on Main Street, right? We're Main Street Cannabis, but we're not treated like a Main Street company.
Help small businesses stay in the fight, so to speak, against the big money coming in and buying everything up.
My first time being here, I would highly recommend for other people that are in the cannabis industry, Main Street cannabis companies, mom and pop companies, come here, let them hear your voice, let them see your face, let them hear your story. It's important that our elected officials get to hear from us, the average Joes in the room that are actually the small businesses that are leading this industry and that are creating these jobs and opportunities.
Never a dull moment in the Big Apple, certainly not since they opened their legal market. Now, if you are still operating without a license, you could be subject to a raid like the one on Sweet Tooth, an edible bakery in the Upper East Side. It just so happens that dispensary opened in the neighborhood of the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. And with more from New York, here's Pam Schmiel.
I'm Pam Schmiel, host of the Mary Jane Society podcast with the New York City Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Everyone is demanding transparency from DASNY, the company overseeing funding for social equity licensees. It was recently revealed that more than 45 members of the New York Society of Certified Public Accountants sent a letter to the Office of Cannabis Management alleging that DASNY is officially creating a monopoly on accounting for cannabis dispensaries. And on Monday, more than 40 social equity licensees got together and sent a letter asking the state to seize the account for the remaining money in the social equity fund. And in other news, New York has barely rolled out its legal cannabis program, but now they just announced they are preparing to help businesses in danger of failing by creating alternative options to bankruptcy. And one thing is for sure, if you are an unlicensed dispensary, don't open one near a government office. The latest one to get closed down is a few blocks from the New York City mayor's residence. And I'll end this on some good news. Dispensaries are now allowed to include an indoor area within their dispensary for an on-site consumption lounge. That's this week's New York City Cannabis Report. I'm Pam Schmiel from the Mary Jane Society podcast, reporting for Weed Talk News.
The state of Colorado might have the most mature cannabis market outside of California in the nation, but their sales and subsequent taxes continue to fall. Right now, the average market rate of a pound of cannabis is at $649, the lowest since the market opened in 2014. The sales totals for March of this year was just $139.6 million. And while that sounds like a lot, sales have not been this low since the fall of 2022. Maybe everyone in Colorado is now shopping in Missouri. That market continues to flourish from out-of-state consumers. Here's Brandon Jones with our Missouri Cannabis Report.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones from Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News, sponsored by my boys at Baker Brands. So yeah, that's right. We're seeing still a big surge from all the out-of-state people trying to come into Missouri to get recreational cannabis that's now passed here for 3 months. Colorado, I would be a little worried because you got to drive through Kansas to get here unless you're going way up and over or way down and around, going back. I would be very, very cautious driving through Kansas with cannabis. That's just my note. I grew up in Kansas. My parents still live there. I have 2 cars to make sure when I'm in Kansas, I have nothing because even paraphernalia in the state can get you up to 30-day minimums. You have to bail yourself out. A friend of mine had a roach this small and it happened to her. She was in her mid-60s. They pulled her over going to the grocery store, found it underneath her coffee cup and actually took her to jail, and she had to get bonded out for a little bitty roach. So please, if you're crossing state lines, be very, 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 very careful. That's why I think a lot of the Missouri market is seeing a big tick up in disposables and pre-rolls, because people can come from across the state, take their medicine while they're still in the state, and be able to leave legally and not have to worry about taking products back around state lines. So Friday and Saturday, state sales around the borders. I know specifically here in Kansas City, they see a big surge in disposables and in pre-rolls because people can, like I said, indulge in that in one day. And we are seeing just a huge sales. And another big thing is happening here is obviously a lot of more employees because a lot of more business. So we are starting to see some unions trying to take place here within the cannabis industry. So a lot of the employees now at different dispensaries are trying to make a union for the industry. So that's another thing here on the forefront in Missouri. So again, I'm Brandon Jones with B Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News, Boost your buds. Have a great week.
Brandon Jones, Missouri Cannabis Report is brought to you by Baker Brands, a curated B2B marketplace for head shops and dispensaries.
If you happen to be in Pennsylvania, you know it's the cheesesteak that Philly is best known for as far as local food goes. Hopefully you didn't want a pizza since the state shut down a pizzeria after they added a special ingredient to their pies. Here's Maya Christofowicz with our Pennsylvania Cannabis Report.
I'm Maya Christofowicz from Scarlet Express, and I'm here in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, reporting for Weed Talk News. Philadelphia authorities say they have shut down a Queen Village pizzeria that puts cannabis in its food and beverages. A joint inspection conducted by the city's licenses and inspections and health departments found that Stone Pizzeria lacked a business license and health certificate. So, 3 uniformed police officers accompanied inspectors as they examined the business, which is guarded by a security guard. Stone was attempting to fulfill to-go orders while the inspection occurred, including one that had a pre-rolled joint. Stone's Philadelphia location, like its others, operates like a speakeasy. There's no sign outside, and customers are texted the address after paying for reservations by using the app. Stone offers a fixed price meal at $120 a person that includes pizza, salad, lollipop chicken, garlic knots, cannoli, sorbet, and sodas, all of which then get an addition of oils containing THC. However, the sale and possession of marijuana is still illegal in Pennsylvania, so the restaurant was instructed to cease operations. Now, together the Queen Village Neighborhood Association, the Head House District, the Society Hill Neighborhood Association, and Bella Vista Neighborhood Association have asked for a change to South Street zoning overlay that would ban smoking lounges such as cigar bars, hookah bars, and presumably pot pizza shops from opening because they want to encourage bars and restaurants that attract residents, not tourists. Well, that's a wrap from Pennsylvania. I'm Maya Christofowicz from Scarlet Express, and I'll be back next week to talk about what's hot and what's not in Pennsylvania. From Weed Talk News, have a fabulous week.
Out west in Washington state, they continue to make changes to their regulations. So here's Matthew Friedlander with more on that.
Hello, everyone. Matthew Friedlander here, coming to you from the owner's office at Skagit Organics with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. I've had a few interesting weeks since the legislative session ended. We are currently in the middle of what people are calling Brewstergate. The LCB has determined that a group of licensees in the town of Brewster, Washington, all seem to be contaminated with legacy pesticides left over from pesticide use in the 60s and 70s. At old apple orchards that have now been converted to cannabis grows. The LCB is claiming that many of these products contain unallowed pesticides, and they decided the best way to deal with that was to completely shut down a number of licenses indefinitely. So not great news on a number of fronts there. The governor did convene a special session as well to deal with the Blake decision from 2021. The Washington State Supreme Court essentially decriminalized hard drug possession and use in Washington, and the legislators got back together to pass a fix to the Blake decision that essentially recriminalizes hard drug use and possession, although instead of being a felony, it will now be a misdemeanor, and you will have to be referred to treatment a few times before you can be charged criminally. So that helps in some regards, putting the focus back on treatment instead of criminalizing people who may have a drug addiction. That's what I got for you today for the Washington Cannabis Report. Matthew reporting for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
As we check north of the border in Canada, the big news there this week is a change to their tax laws. Here's Debbie Facey with our Canadian Cannabis Report.
Hi, this is Debbie Facey from Weed Talk News with your Canadian Toke of the Week. So in Canada, we haven't necessarily had that many upcoming, or I don't want to say newsworthy, but exciting news when it came to the last few weeks. So this week, I was able to compile some of the last few days of what has been going on in Canada in the cannabis industry. So as of right now in Manitoba, Manitoba has now decided to retract their bill, or I should say the addition to the bill, which was to ensure that there was safety when it came to the recreational cannabis cells, which meant that they had added a 6% tax on top of the taxes that they were going to have to pay each month, yearly, and for tax season when it came to operating their stores. With this new law being implemented and being retracted, this has now allowed many of the Manitobians, stores and store owners to actually gain a refund when it comes to all of the taxes that they have paid since the legalization or since the bill came into effect as of 2020. So Manitoba and the dispensaries and the cannabis industry out there is going to be gaining a nice little boost. I don't want to say an incentive, but getting back what they do deserve due to the fact that the recreational cannabis hasn't been something that has created a problem here in Canada and has not created a reason to have an excess tax on top of what they already are paying for their cannabis. Next, what we have is StratCan had put out a release stating the fact that after and with and during and so forth in the future, when it comes to the cannabis legalization decision and it having a recreational and the medicinal aspect of it, there was no rise in the usage and there was no rise in the criminal acts either. And this was something that most Canadians and most cannabis users already knew, but at the same time, the government has to ensure that it is not going to be happening and isn't happening and it isn't going to be a problem in the future. The last thing that we have in Canada is a spike in recalls when it comes to the artificial candies that the illicit market are creating, such as the ones based on Skittles, Mars, Sour Kids, anything that has been appealing to kids. This is something that we have been trying to implement and get across when it comes to the safety of cannabis edibles, because we don't want to be showcasing to kids, and that is something that I truly agree. And especially when it comes to the packaging compared to a legal and an illicit market product, the fanciness behind it isn't necessarily needed. So it's something that the illicit market should look at and realize that maybe we should tone it down a bit, not create these products that are already created, that are already geared to kids, that are already something that we know that is going to create a further problem when it comes to the illicit market, but maybe look into how the legal market is actually utilizing their packaging and their labeling. And that's not me saying that the illicit market should continue what they're doing, but if you are making products for yourself, this is something where you should be taking into consideration when it comes to the labeling and when it comes to the packaging. We don't want to be stating and referring the wrong idea. So this is Debbie Facey with We Talk News with your cannabis toke of the week.
While the DEA continues to figure out whether hemp should be under their jurisdiction rather than U.S. agriculture, more states continue to give out hemp growing licenses. Here's Karen Black with our Arizona report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting. Welcome to the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Hemp Biosciences, a subsidiary of Tucson-based public company Weed Inc., was awarded a hemp cultivation license by the state of Arizona. The company plans to grow up to 100 acres of hemp as inputs to their manufacturing of THC plus CBD pre-rolls, CBD oil, and other hemp-based products, including some to be focused on minor cannabinoids. Chief Operating Officer Nicole Bream was also awarded her facility agent card, making her eligible to buy and sell direct from and to Arizona dispensaries. Alicia Deals, the owner of Cookies Dispensary in Tempe, and Arizona's first Black female social equity operator, is awaiting a May 30th court hearing for her father, Robert Deals, an Air Force veteran and ordained minister who is currently serving time for selling the same plant. He is on year 12 of an 18-year sentence and plans to ask the court to remove his sentence enhancements, to run all charges concurrently, and to release him for time served. Commenting on what is being billed as the ultimate irony, Ms. Deals is quoted as saying, "Our family's biggest burden has now become our family's biggest blessing." Ms. Deals is also the founder and CEO of Life Changers, which provides professional assistance to families with loved ones who are incarcerated. On May 15th, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs signed budget legislation into law that includes $5 million in funding for research into the potential of psilocybin mushrooms for a variety of medical conditions. A complementary bill, which the governor also signed, outlines requirements for related clinical trials. The money will be distributed by Arizona's Department of Health Services during fiscal year 2023-2024. As for Arizona cannabis events, here are a few. On May 18th, Canna Friends of Tucson hosted their May meeting at the historic Bates Mansion. The second annual Backwood Rolling Contest is scheduled to take place May 27th in Glendale. The event will feature food trucks, vendors, and prizes, with $500 going to the rolling contest winner. Tickets range from $10 to $25 and are available on Eventbrite. On May 28th, Canna Drag will kick off the Canna Wars at the Harumba Cafe and Social Club in Tucson. This over 21 multi-week event features 16 performers who will engage in various competitions and elimination rounds in pursuit of a $1,000 prize. Canna Wars is organized by Blue Dream Entertainment. Tickets are $20 each week. The Arizona Marijuana Industry Trade Association will host its monthly networking meeting May 31st in Scottsdale. For more information and tickets, go to mita-az.org. That's MITA-az.org. That's all for this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black of Greenfinger Consulting, reporting for Weed Talk News.
In Vermont, which was the first state in the union to vote in an adult use cannabis program through legislative initiative, they are coming to the end of their session for now. Jessie Lindolan has our Vermont Cannabis Report.
I'm Jessie Lindolan from Vermont Cannabis Nurses, and this is the Weed Talk News Vermont Report. With Vermont's legislative session coming to a close, the only cannabis bill to get traction this year, considered a general housekeeping bill, has passed both the Senate and House. This bill would award a one-time appropriation of $500,000 into the Cannabis Business Development Fund, devoting a portion of the cannabis excise tax revenue toward racial and social equity and community reinvestment. The bill will allow outdoor licensees to be enrolled in current use, be exempt from certain sales tax, local control, and municipal bylaws, and be protected from nuisance under Act 250. It increases the Tier 1 manufacturing license annual gross to $50,000, increases the THC limit for cannabis products to 100 milligrams per package, removes the vape tax from hardware and devices, eases some advertising laws, and adds a propagation license to sell cannabis seeds directly to the public. For the medical program, it increases the qualifying conditions and plant count from 2 to 6 in flower. Vermont's longest running and largest Cannabis Cup competition and judging culminate at the Hetty's Cup Awards Party on Saturday, May 20th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Lang Farm in Essex. Visit Hetty, Vermont for more information and to secure your tickets. That's the Vermont Report for Weed Talk News. I'm Vermont's cannabis nurse, Jessie Lindolan.
The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Cannatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at cannatrolls.com.
Not a lot going on in the Bay State of Massachusetts, but PCM founder Jimmy Young found a few things to share with his Massachusetts Cannabis Report.
Thanks, Alaina. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and this is the Massachusetts Cannabis Report, sponsored by Holyoke Cannabis. Now, if you have ever overdone it on a dose of a cannabis edible, you will understand the dangers for adults of not being responsible enough to lock up your stash. You want to keep it away from minors, whether they're your children or other people, but also be mindful what your own limits are. Sure enough, an adult administrator in the town of Pembroke brought an edible to school this past week, violating school rules. Now, wouldn't you know it, a 9-year-old special needs student got his hands on that edible somehow and thought it was a normal chocolate bar. Needless to say, a trip to the emergency room at the hospital in Pembroke was the next step before being released okay a few hours later. That school administrator is now on paid leave, and that is a suspension. The boy is fine, but hoping the adult in this sad saga has learned their lesson. Start low, go slow with your own dosing, and most importantly, be responsible about your own use and keep your stash under lock and key. This is another reason why we say it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. I'm Jimmy Young with the Massachusetts Cannabis Report, supported by Holyoke Cannabis.
Bay State Cannabis Report is supported by Holyoke Cannabis, Holyoke's finest cannabis recreational experience.
And finally tonight, just because you own a rolling papers company that is worth over $1 billion, it does not mean you smoke weed. That's right. Don Levin, the owner of the #1 rolling papers company in the world called Republic Brands. You might be familiar with the Easy Wider brand. Well, there are a handful of others, but that might be the most well known. And he admits he couldn't even roll a joint if his life depended on it. His company produces 1.2 billion packs of papers every year, and they control every phase of that process. Now, don't think he never partakes in this unique plant. Sure enough, during a party at the Playboy Mansion to celebrate his production of a Stephen King movie, he had an edible and forgot where he parked his car. I think we can all relate to that, even if we haven't fired up. Well, that's this week's Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto. It's a whole new world of weed out there, so use it responsibly. We'll see you next time.
It's a whole new world of weed out there, isn't it? Everyone is learning new ways to titrate, ingest, consume, imbibe, and engage with this plant medicine we call cannabis. Hi, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and the host of In the Weeds, and once in a while, the really live business cannabis talk show we call Green Rush on Friday afternoons from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. I've been a medical patient in Massachusetts for almost 10 years now. I remember my first trip to a dispensary just outside of Boston, and I told the bud tender I didn't want to smoke it anymore. So I tried edibles, then tinctures, then vaping, and now if I'm going to smoke, I only use the Weedgets filtration system. What? The Weedgets.com, Weedgets, that's weed, W-E-E-D, G-E-T-S.com, is where you'll find the planet's coolest product.
Both cool the smoke from 1300 degrees to just 90 into your lungs. Plus, the maze pipe and pre-roll filters get rid of all the gunk that you just don't want in your lungs if you can help it.
Add in the code of PCMTV and you get 15% off. So just go to Weedgets.com and check out the best way to enjoy a cooler smoke with less coughing and hacking and more peace of mind. All that resin and tar is collected in the polyurethane filters that are easy to clean with soap, water, and a few Q-tips. Your lungs will thank you, and so will I.
We are a cultivation through to consumption lifestyle brand for the cannabis industry. Of course, the crown jewel in our product line is the Armoire home grow system. So now with Green Goddess Supply, we can take you everywhere from growing it in the Armoire right through to storing it, consuming it, rolling it, storing it, you name it, A to Z. Our goal is to enable everybody and anybody anywhere to be able to produce their own organic flower quickly, easily, discreetly, and inexpensively.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems, whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com.